Snow gathers on the cobblestones in silver quiet line. A lantern glows beyond the glass and shines across the cafe floor. The window frames a winter street in pale and drifting white. Footsteps fade along the stone from snow the falling snow. Echoes in the winter air, soft and slow within real days of snow. They hover in the fading light and make the moment bright. Echoes in the winter air. The piano hums in velvet chords that shimmer then release. It leaves a gentle space between for peace to settle in the room. A voice unfolds like woven silk, clear but never loud. It wraps around the steady groove, unearned by cold beyond the cloud. Echoes in the winter air, calm and white, where restless thoughts can step aside. Nothing's breakfast from outside. The world feels warm inside. Echoes in the winter air. A book lies open on the table, receiving quiet thought. Each page turns without a rush, as taught by snow's unhurried fall. The bass walks softly underneath in rounded, careful tone. It steadies every drifting chord alone beneath the mellow keys. Brush drums whisper like the wind across a distant square. They trace the edges of the groove with care and soften every beat. A muted sax in golden hue appears, then slips away. A breath of winter memory to play before it fades again. The street lamps glow in amber Snow gathers at the edge of steps below the quiet cafe window, where warmth begins to bloom. The street is wrapped in drifting white in layers soft and slow. Footsteps blur in silver mist and go beyond the bending corner of the frozen square. Lantern light on the snow, soft and slow, little sparks begin to glow. They hover in the winter air and settle everywhere. Lantern light on the snow. The piano hums in rounded tones that shimmer then release. It leaves a tender pause between for peace to settle in the silence of the mellow room. A voice unfolds like folded wool, warm against the cold. It moves along the steady groove and holds the center of the moment without a sudden rise. Lantern light on the snow, calm and wide, where wandering thoughts subside. Nothing presses at the door, the chill is felt no more. Lantern light on the snow. A book rests open by my hand, receiving careful eyes. Each sentence forms in gentle time and lies within the golden stillness of unhurried air. The bass keeps quiet walking steps in rounded patient tone. It anchors every drifting chord alone beneath the steady piano that hums in velvet waves. Brush drums whisper at the edge like wind along a lane. They trace the outline of the groove again and soften every measure without a trace of haste. A muted sax in distant brass appears then slips away. A memory of winter nights at play within the layered harmony that warms the fading light. The street lamps flicker faintly now in halos pale and thin. Their glow dissolves in falling snow that spin across the silent pavement outside the frosted glass. The afternoon leans toward dusk, yet comfort lingers still. The cafe air remains composed and fills with woven tones of amber and steady rhythm low. I let the quiet fold around the pages in my hand. It settles like a winter coat, well planned against the softened daylight before the evening comes. Lantern light on the snow, warm and bright, floating gently through the night. I carry it beyond this room into the fading afternoon. Lantern light on the snow, the Snow settles on the cobblestone in silver quiet lines. The winter air is breathing slow and twines around the glowing windows of cafes lined in gold. A narrow street in drifting white curves gently out of sight. Footsteps fade in softened arcs of light beneath the amber lanterns that shimmer through the snow. Whispers along the cobblestone, soft and slow, little melodies of snow. They drift between the lamps of gold and warm the winter cold. Whispers along the cobblestone. The piano hums in velvet tones that shimmer then retreat. It leaves a careful space between each beat, a pause that feels intentional and steady as the fall. A voice unfolds in tender waves, warm against the air. It moves along the steady groove with care, never rising sharply above the mellow glow. Whispers along the cobblestone, calm and wide, where wandering thoughts can hide. Nothing presses at the door, the frost is felt no more. Whispers along the cobblestone. A book lies open near my hand, receiving quiet thought. Each page turns in patient time as taught by snow's unhurried rhythm outside the frosted glass. The bass keeps gentle walking steps in rounded, careful tone. It anchors every drifting chord alone beneath the steady piano that hums in muted gold. Brush drums scatter silver taps like flakes against a coat. They trace the outline of the groove and float through layers of warm harmony without disturbing calm. A muted sax in honeyed brass appears then slips away, a ribbon through the winter air at play within the woven texture of soft cafe repose. The street lamps glow in amber rings along the narrow lane. Their light dissolves in falling snow like rain across the silent rooftops and sleeping balconies. The afternoon begins to dim, yet comfort lingers still. The cafe air remains composed and fills with layered notes of warmth and steady undertone. The quiet gathers gradually between the chords and breath. It rests upon the open page beneath, the hum of woven harmony that steadies every line. I let the winter fold around the story in my hand. It settles like a woolen scarf well planned against the softened daylight before the lamps grow bright. Whispers along the cobblestone, low and bright, floating softly in the night. I carry them beyond this room through winter's slow perfume. Whispers along the cobblestone. The snow drifts on through lantern light. Snowlight rests upon the stone in sheets of quiet white. The narrow street is breathing slow tonight, though daylight still is fading in amber window glow. Balconies in iron lace hold shadows thin and pale. The winter sky bends softly low and veiled. The rooftops lined in silver with drifting, weightless snow. Snowlight on the old street, soft and slow. Little traces of the snow, they shimmer under lantern flame, and warm the winter's name. Snowlight on the old street. The piano hums in rounded chords that shimmer then descend. It leaves a gentle pause between each blend of harmony and silence across the mellow room. A voice unfolds like quiet wool, warm against the frost. It moves within the steady groove, unlost by any passing chill beyond the glowing glass. Snowlight on the old street, calm and wide, where restless thoughts can hide. Nothing presses from afar. The lamps become a star. Snowlight on the old street. A novel waits upon the table, edges lined with gold. Each sentence drifts in patient arcs unfold within the woven rhythm of brush and bass below. The bass continues steady steps in rounded careful pace. It anchors every drifting tone in place without demanding notice from the mellow keys. Brush drums scatter fragile taps like flakes against a pane. They trace the outer rim of sound again and soften every measure into gentle sway. A muted sax in distant hue emerges then recedes, a slender thread of honey brass that leads the ear through quiet corners of winter harmony. The lanterns flicker quietly in halos soft and thin. Their glow dissolves in drifting snow and spin across the silent rooftops in pale European dusk. The afternoon slips gently down toward early evening hue, yet warmth remains between the notes and through the steady woven textures of calm cafe repose. The quiet deepens gradually between the chords and breath. It settles on the open page beneath, the hush of layered harmony that steadies every line. I let the winter linger here between the words I read. It folds around the mellow air like tweed and stays within the music long after pages turn. Snowlight on the old gentle bloom. Snowlight on the old street, the lamps still glow through falling white. Lantern halos paint the snow in circles pale and wide. The cobbled lane grows still and slow outside, while warmth within the cafe gathers in soft gold. Frosted glass reflects the light in fractured amber gleam. The winter air moves carefully like steam above the quiet tables where pages softly turn. A book beneath the lantern, soft and slow. Little stories in the snow, they shimmer in the winter air and settle everywhere. A book beneath the lanterns. The piano shapes a mellow phrase that bends and gently fades. It leaves a careful breath between the shades of harmony and silence across the woven groove. A voice unfolds in velvet tone, warm as woven thread. It settles in the tempered air and spread across the steady rhythm without a trace of strain. A book beneath the lanterns, calm and wide, where wandering thoughts can hide. Nothing presses at the door, the frost is felt no more. A book beneath the lanterns. The novel rests against my palm, its pages faintly worn. Each line unfolds in patient light till morn. The winter clouds are gathering along the distant roofs. The bass walks softly underneath in measured even stride. It steadies every drifting chord with pride, yet keeps a humble presence beneath the glowing keys. Brush drums whisper silver taps like snow against a coat. They frame the outer edge of sound and float through layered warmth and harmony without a sudden rise. A muted sax in honeytone appears, then slips away, a fleeting trace of golden brass at play within the winter texture of quiet afternoon. The street beyond the frosted pane grows softer, dim and still. The lantern light bends gently low and spill across the silent pavement in pale and drifting white. The afternoon begins to fade toward early twilight hue, yet comfort lingers in the chords and through the steady woven current of brush and bass below. The quiet gathers patiently between the notes and lines. It rests upon the open page and shines within the temple Between the falling snow, it lingers in the woven tone and glow of lantern light and melody that carries through the cold. A book beneath the lanterns, warm and bright, floating softly into night. I carry it beyond this room, through winter's gentle bloom. A book beneath the lanterns, the pages close, the light remains. Quiet footprints on the stone, drifting silver lines. The winter air is breathing slow, and winds through narrow European streets beneath a lantern glow. Frosted windows shimmer faint in halos pale and round. The muffled world beyond the glass makes sound like distant turning pages of stories yet unread. Quiet footprints under lantern light, soft and slow, little winter echoes glow. They hover in the falling white and warm the early night. Quiet footprints under lantern light. The piano hums in mellow chords that glimmer, then retreat. It leaves a careful space between each beat, a pause that feels intentional and steady as the snow. A voice unfolds in velvet arcs, warm against the frost. It moves within the tempered groove, long lost by wind beyond the doorway of the glowing room. Quiet footprints under lantern light, calm and light, where wandering thoughts can hide. Nothing presses from outside, the hush becomes our guide. Quiet footprints under lantern light. A book rests open near my hand, its edges lined with gold. Each sentence bends in patient arcs unfold within the woven rhythm of brush and bass below. The bass keeps gentle walking steps in rounded, steady pace. It anchors every drifting tone in place without demanding focus from the mellow keys. Brush drums scatter fragile taps like flakes against a pane. They trace the outer edge of sound again and soften every measure into quiet sway. A muted sax in amber hue emerges, then recedes, a slender ribbon through the mix that leads the ear through hidden corners of winter harmony. Deepens gradually between the notes and breath. It settles on the printed page beneath the woven strands of harmony that steady every thought. A shadow moves along the wall, yet never breaks the flow. The rhythm keeps its patient pace below the drifting winter skyline, beyond the frosted glass. I let the warmth remain within, unspoken, clear and bright. It lingers in the mellow tone of light and carries past the hour. Feel falling winter air, quiet footprints under lantern light, warm and bright, floating softly into night. I carry them beyond this room, through winter's gentle bloom. Quiet footprints under lantern light. The snow drifts on past silent doors. Lantern reflections on wet stone, in amber trembling lies. The winter dusk is settling slow, and winds fill narrow streets of quiet brick beneath the drifting snow. Iron balconies above, pole frost in fragile lace. A narrow alley curves away with grace into the silver distance of a sleeping square. Lantern reflections on wet stone, soft and slow, little winter embers glow. They shimmer through the falling white and warm the fading light. Lantern reflections on wet stone. The piano bends in rotted chords that shimmer then subside. It leaves a subtle breath between each glide of harmony and silence across the mellow room. Her voice unfolds like woven wool, warm against the frost. It settles in the tempered air, lost by wind beyond the doorway of the glowing cafe. Lantern reflections on a wet stone, calm and wide, where restless thoughts subside. Nothing presses from the street, the hedge feels soft and deep. Lantern reflections on wet stone. Edges lined in gold, each sentence drifts in patient arcs unfold within the layered rhythm of brush and bass below. The days continue, steady steps in rounded even stride. It anchors every drifting chord with pride, yet keeps a humble presence beneath the tempered keys. Brush drums scatter gentle taps like snow on a coat. They frame the outer edge of sound and float through woven winter texture without a hint of haste. A muted Saxon honeytone emerges, then withdraws, a ribbon through the layered mix. Applause of quiet golden memory across the tempered air. Street lamps flicker faintly now in halos pale and thin. Their glow dissolves in drifting snowlight spin across the silent rooftops and shuttered balconies. I let the lantern glow remain unspoken, clear and bright. It lingers in the mellow tone of night and carries through the silence beyond the falling snow. Lantern reflections on wet stone, warm and bright, floating softly into night. I carry them beyond this room, through winter's gentle bloom. Lantern reflections on wet stone. The glow stays on across the stone. Lantern reflections on wet stone. Lantern reflections on wet stone. The glow stays on across the stone. Snowfall beyond the cafe glass in silver drifting waves. The winter sky bends low and pale and saves its brightest light for lanterns along the tones in softened white reflect the amber hue of windows lined with quiet warmth that grew against the fading daylight of European noon. Snowfall beyond the cafe glass, soft and slow, little winter murmurs glow. They hover in the muted air and settle everywhere. Snowfall beyond the cafe glass. The piano hums in velvet tones that shimmer then retreat. It leaves a careful space between each beat, where silence feels intentional and steady as the fall. A voice unfolds in tender arcs, warm as woven thread. It moves along the steady groove and spread across the mellow harmony without a sudden rise. Snowfall beyond the cafe glass, calm and wide, where wandering thoughts can hide. Nothing presses at the door, the chill is felt no more. Snowfall beyond the cafe glass. A book rests open by my hand, its margins faintly worn. Each page unfolds in patient light till morn. The winter gathers slowly across the distant roofs. The bass keeps quiet, walking lines in rounded even pace. It steadies every drifting tone in place without demanding notice from the mellow keys. Brush drums whisper silver taps like flakes against a pane. They trace the outer rim of sound again and soften every measure into gentle sway. Muted sax in distant brass appears, then slips away. A slender thread of amber tone at play within the woven texture of quiet afternoon. The rooftops fade in drifting white as twilight bends below. The lantern halos tremble faint and glow across the silent pavement in steady amber rings. The afternoon leans slowly down toward evening's quiet shade, yet warmth remains between the notes and made. A refuge in the music from winter's distant chill. The quiet deepens gradually between the chords and breath. It settles on the open page beneath. The layered strands of harmony that steady every thought. Outside, a distant bell is heard, then fades into The snowfall lingers still, unspoken, calm and bright. It settles in the tempered tone of light and carries through the silence beyond the cafe door. Snowfall beyond the cafe glass, warm and bright, floating softly into night. I carry it beyond this room, through winter's gentle bloom. Snowfall beyond the cafe glass. The snow keeps falling soft and slow. Amber light along the stone in trembling rings of gold. The winter air is breathing low and cold. Beyond the cafe window, where warmth begins to bloom, snow drifts softly past the glass in silent silver arcs. The narrow street bends out of sight in sparks of lantern-lit reflection on the frozen ground. Winter pages in amber light, soft and slow, little melodies of snow. They shimmer in the lantern glow and warm the street below. Winter pages in amber light. The piano hums in mellow tones that shimmer then subside. It leaves a gentle pause between each glide of harmony and breathing across the tempered air. A voice unfolds in velvet waves, warm against the frost. It threads along the steady groove, unlost by wind beyond the doorway of the glowing room. Winter pages in amber light, calm and wide, where wandering thoughts can hide. Nothing presses from the street, the hush feels soft and deep. Winter pages in amber light. A book rests open near my hand, its margins lined in cream. Each sentence bends in patient time like steam. Above the waiting coffee, beside the wooden grain. The bass keeps steady walking lines in rounded careful pace. It anchors every drifting chord in place without demanding focus from the mellow keys. Brush drums scatter silver taps like flakes against a pane. They trace the outer edge of sound again and soften every measure into gentle sway. A muted sax in honeyed hue emerges, then recedes. A slender ribbon through the mix that leads ear toward hidden corners of winter harmony. The lantern halos tremble faint in circles pale and thin. Their glow dissolves in drifting snow that spin across the silent rooftops and shuttered balconies. The afternoon leans into dusk toward twilight's muted shade, yet comfort lingers in the chords and main. A refuge in the music from winter's distant chill. The quiet gathers gradually between the notes and breath. It settles on the printed page beneath. The layer strands of melody that steady every line. Outside, a distant carriage hum moves softly out of range. The rhythm keeps its patient flow unchanged. Within the golden warmth of sheltered winter air, I let the amber glow remain unspoken, clear and bright. It lingers in the mellow tone of night and carries past the moment beyond the falling snow. Winter pages in amber light, warm and bright, floating softly into night. I carry them beyond this room through winter's gentle bloom. Winter pages in amber light. The lantern burns through quiet snow. Echoes beneath the falling white in soft and silver lines. The winter sky bends low and pale and shines across the silent cobblestones outside the glowing door. Frosted panes reflect the lamps in halo, thin and warm. The narrow street grows hushed and still in form as twilight gathers slowly above the quiet town. Echoes beneath the falling white, soft and slow, little winter murmurs. They hover in the lantern air and settle everywhere. Echoes beneath the falling white. The piano bends in rounded chords that shimmer then retreat. It leaves a subtle space between, where silence feels intentional and steady as the snow. A voice unfolds in tempered arcs of war-worn fairness, woven thread. It settles in the mellow groove and spread across the layered harmony without a sudden rise. Echoes beneath the falling white, calm and wide, where restless thoughts subside. Nothing presses press against my palm, its edges faintly warm. Each page unfolds in patient light till morn. The winter gathers slowly along the distant roofs. The bass keeps gentle walking steps in rounded careful pace. It steadies every drifting tone in place, without demanding notice from the mellow keys. Brush drums whisper silver taps like flakes against a coat. They frame the outer edge of sound and float through woven winter texture without a hint of haste. A muted sax in amber tone appears, then slips away. A slender thread of honeyed brass at play within the woven rhythm of quiet afternoon. The lantern glow grows deeper now, in circles pale and thin. Its light dissolves in drifting snow that spin across the silent rooftops in European dusk. The afternoon fades gradually toward evening's quiet hue, yet warmth remains between the notes and through the steady woven textures of calm cafe repose. The quiet deepens gently still between the chords and breath. It settles on the printed page beneath, the layered strands of harmony that steady every thought. Outside a distant bell resounds, then melts into the air. The rhythm keeps its patient dark with care. Across the mellow textures of winter's softened tone, I let I let the fallen white remain unspoken, calm and bright. It lingers in the tempered glow of light and carries through the silence beyond the cafe door. Echoes beneath the falling white, warm and bright, floating softly into night. I carry them beyond this room through winter's gentle bloom. Echoes beneath the falling white. The snow keeps falling to stillness.